All right, good morning, everyone. Wow, what a great introduction. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited for the opportunity to share with you a little bit about Flex and talk about essentially what our journey has been in going from the company, let's say, that started out just doing manufacturing and now into a massive supply chain company that delivers sketch-to-scale solutions for our clients. So let's jump into it, right? Okay, so our promise to our clients is to be that go-to-market partner to help them create and deliver smarter and more connected devices that make our lives better. So the world's changing, you all know this, but let's take a little bit of a look at back in time and where we're headed into the future. So if you look at the industrial age, right, gross domestic product, it basically was increasing 2 times every 100 years, right? Then you're moving on to the modern age, the advent of the car, 2 times every 40 years, right? Now a little bit more in the information age, the computers, big data, all of that, 2 times every 25 years, right? Now what's coming next? Well, what we believe is coming next, we're calling it the intelligence age, 2 times every 15 years. Incredible seismic changes in the world. So let's look at the technology part of that. So the faster technology adoption, I won't go through every single aspect of this, but if you just look at the change and the rate at which people adopt technology, so 47, 49 years to adopt electricity, only 7 years for the world to adopt, or in the US to adopt the web. That's 7 times increase, right? So people actually are learning and are able to adopt massive technology shifts in the world. So, and then big trends. Let's take a look at these big trends. So for a supply chain company like us and in manufacturing, in the world, I know a lot of people think, hey, everything's made in China. Things have actually shifted. We're seeing a lot more regionalization where manufacturing is happening closer to where the demand is. The middle class is actually rising around the world. That creates amazing supply chain complexity. On top of that, we have new entrants in the world today. If you look at the growth of the Asian OEMs, we've even got if you look at the new hardware manufacturers coming in, I know we have Facebook here today, right? Google, even if you think about companies like Microsoft, traditionally only software companies, but now they're into hardware. So it's not just about the software by itself or the hardware. You need a total solution. You need everything together. And that's increased innovation, and you can't forget about global citizenship. In the world today, you can't just make something inexpensively and of good quality. You have to make it right. You've got to make sure that you're complying to all laws and regulations, have good labor practices, and so on. And then finally, the intelligence of things. This is where essentially we're going to have all of those connected devices, right? In 2020, we expect 50 billion connected devices. That should create a $7.1 trillion total available market. And we have 10 billion devices today, roughly, that are connected. So I don't know about you, but the amount of change that's coming is going to be amazing. And if you look at what's really transforming business and forcing that change, in the past, it was led often by business changes. Today, it's led more by consumers. Free information, real time, mobility, anyone, anywhere, anytime, the cloud, all that compute power in the back, right? So, opportunity's massive. We are ready. I hope you guys are. Are you guys ready? Yeah? Great. Okay. All right, so if you look at Flextronics now, Flex, one layer below, again, we're in all these different industries. And those are billions with a B there. So we're not just doing small amounts here and there, we are a major contributor in manufacturing items. And just to make some other points, to simply say that these are all silos, they're not. I mean, take a look at wearables. We certainly see that wearables like the Fitbit and things like that, there's some gray between that and, let's say, healthcare solutions that are coming out. In the automotive industry, just to put an example, Flex, we're big into lighting and some aspects of dashboards, communications, networking. Most of the information that goes around the world today, Flexes produce those products. Okay, so let's move on and look at that infrastructure that supports all that. So we've got a massive, massive infrastructure scale, 100 sites, 30 countries, 200,000 people. We're providing end-to-end services for our clients. And on top of that, of course, you have to have real-time information systems and a massive technology back-end to support that. And that's one of the main reasons a company our size absolutely partners with MicroStrategy. If you look at any app as well, the comment there I wanted to really point out for all of you is, at a company our size, to think you're going to have one solution that's going to fit all of those industries and magically make that work for everyone, that's not realistic. So we've really adopted a federated development model, engaging with our factory experts and people that are close to the action and what's going on, and they're able to produce their own solutions. So our global reach and scale, as Susan mentioned, $26 billion, 200,000 employees, 30 countries, 100 locations, 1.2 million active components. I wanted to point out for you guys to just get this in your mind with big data, right? The 1.2 million components, that actually they're active, meaning in the supply chain. So just think of all the millions and millions that are running through on a daily basis. All right, so some of the sites. I love to look back on here, and because this is pretty much my travel schedule, and I don't know about you guys. So I've had the opportunity to be in many of these locations, work with people directly on their specific needs. Again, it's not realistic to think that every single location is going to be exactly the same. So we work very closely with each organization to understand their needs. And then finally, our ecosystem, then, if you just sort of break it down when we're working with our clients, we cultivate their products with them, we help them develop, we also can help them identify new technologies that might be appropriate, and then finally, the commercialization. For us, it's not just about shipping the product and then the story ends there. The story continues. We have reverse logistics, products come back. We have a ton of value-added additional services that we provide to our clients in supply chain management, even financial and tax consulting. So for our customers, we are that sketch-to-scale competitive advantage in the age of intelligence. So with that background, let's talk about our journey for business insights. And I want to bring it down and make it a little bit more real, okay? So got to ask you guys a question, and you got to tell me if this sounds familiar. Have you ever made an appointment with an important client for dinner, right? Some of you guys done that? Yep, okay, I see a couple hands. I actually like this place. This is a real place, the Slanted Door in the city in San Francisco. And so when I have that important, a time that I have to get there, it's like the first thing I want to do is essentially say, wow, I got to get there on time, right? And in the Bay Area, it's not about how far something is, it's how long it takes, right? So you might use a tool like this. So then when I'm driving, though, I want to make sure I don't get a ticket, right? Because that's sure going to delay. And so while I'm on my way, I want to monitor my speed and make sure that I don't get that ticket. And I might use a dashboard, right? So hopefully you do. Very different things, right? So I've heard from a lot of people, they say, well, geez, How can I make sure that I'm data-driven and my organization is data-driven? What's the process to do that? And la, la, la. Well, if you answered yes and you understand any of this, congratulations, you're data-driven. So don't worry about trying to create that kind of data-driven culture. If that's not your problem, then what is the problem? And I think we heard this earlier from Mike, right? It's about establishing trust and buy-in, and that's how you get to adoption. So I'm going to run through a couple of things quickly here. So when you're establishing trust, you've got to make sure the information is relevant. What, when, and where. It's got to be reliable and reusable, and you've got to have an action in mind. In our case, we're designing things we're deciding to design, build, ship, repair. What are those items, right? And you have to put it and spend time in a process diagram that explains simply what you're trying to achieve. And the other thing you've got to watch out for is what is the accuracy and precision that you're heading for. If you try to get too much to the diagram on the left and you're going for accuracy and precision all at the same time, you're going to spend a lot of money, potentially, right? And if you get to that precision and you're wrong, then you're wrong all the time. So my advice in general is to try and focus on accuracy first and then bring the precision in as it's appropriate. Okay? So problem solving. Now, I wasn't asked by Daniel Kahneman to put this up here. I also advise reading a lot about doing this because it is about understanding how people think and work. To do that, just keep a frame in your mind that people have two modes of thinking. If you remember back to the example of driving the car, you have a thinking fast mode, which is trying to avoid that ticket. It's essentially a type of thinking where you can sort of shut your brain off a little bit. And then thinking slow, you've got to be fully engaged, and it takes more energy. And as you're thinking about how to put these solutions together, put the person in the middle. Sometimes people put the goal in the middle. I can understand that. But I like to put the person in the middle to understand what they're trying to do, understand their goal, their process that they need to be involved in, the tool they might use, and in the end, what is the data that they need to make a decision. So if you kind of just jump back quickly to those examples, we had a thinking slow and a thinking fast example. So the thinking fast one is the dashboard. That dashboard's fixed. If you were driving your car and all of a sudden you were able to go in there and mess with the font on your dashboard, that would kind of be a problem, right? You've got to have something for those sort of scenarios. But then in other cases, you do need the user to be able to interact because they've got to provide additional information so that that tool can work for them, right? So keep those things in mind. All right, so for us as a corporation, the benefit for us is shared understanding. Again, keep those, 100 sites, 30 countries, all different languages. For us, we need shared understanding. And we also, as a corporation, realize that decision-making needs to be done down where the people are closest to servicing our clients. So it's about consistent, independent decision-making and that engaged workforce. I gave one of my team members a challenge to create a MicroStrategy dashboard, and I gave him no training whatsoever. I said, you go online, you use essentially the tools that are there, and see what you can do. He absolutely blew people away at the dashboards he was able to create. And I put him in a lot of pressure there, and I said, well, how do you feel? And he said, I feel smarter. And that's what I really was aiming for, is that engaged person. And now he felt empowered not only to create dashboards, but to make those decisions. So this gives us the ability to have more predictable outcomes within our company. And it's not just about the money side of it, right? You want to be able to predict your quality, your compliance, your security, those elements I mentioned about environmental responsibility and so on. So, essentially make sure that as you're planning these things within your own company, that you engage people in that process. You also are going to need the right mindset. So another book, you guys are going to have homework. You guys ready for homework? So when it comes to succeeding in something like this, you've really got to make sure that you get yourself out of that fixed mode and into a growth mode. So essentially, don't start. I can't imagine anybody in this room would think that they're in the I won't category. I think all of you are at least at I wish I could. Well, if you want to just kind of move yourself down a little bit, at least get to I think I might. If you're in I think I might, you're starting to think about a list of actions that you might need to take. Maybe a meeting that you might need to get with a manager to help you fund some great idea that you might have. And then if you get to at least I think I can, it's that much easier to say, okay, now I'm going to commit, right? And once you can commit, then you can really make something happen. And by the time you get to, hey, I've got it done, and you did it, this just means that you recycle and you do it again. Because having a growth mindset and pushing that within yourself and within your company helps you to ensure that you've got the next thing and the next thing. Because remember the adoption, the technology adoption that I talked about earlier, there's going to be more of that. So you all should basically be the leaders in that type of journey within your own firms. So I'm quite sure that if you guys can do this, keep learning, keep trying, don't be afraid, and you will live smarter. Thank you very much.